Okay, 6:31. So here we go. So again, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining ACCA's A Day in the Life webinar in collaboration with Success at School. My name is George Chunias. I'm the Early Careers Manager here at ACCA, and I will be your host for this evening's session. This webinar is part of a series of webinars. So if you joined yesterday's session, evening session, hello again. And it's a part of a series of webinars we're running to redefine the accountant and provide opportunities for young people, career changers, parents, guardians, and educators to understand more about a career in accounting and finance, dispel some myths, and showcase the range of opportunities available. And our overarching aim is to widen access to accounting and finance. So this evening, I am really pleased to be joined by a great lineup of panelists who are taking time out of, well, their working day is over, but time out of their evening. So we have Amal, Tom, Bryony, and Charlene, who will be sharing their insights as well as taking questions from you very shortly. And I will give them time to introduce themselves. First things first, some housekeeping for the session. So the session is due to finish at 7:30, and you will have time for Q&A towards the end of the session. Should you wish to ask any questions, there is a Q&A function, so please pop them in the Q&A, and we will look through them and select some questions. For those questions we aren't able to answer, Success at School will collate them, and we will hopefully do like a blog or answer your questions. Now, a really important thing that lots of people will be wondering, and yes, you will be receiving a certificate for participation, and this will come tomorrow. And I think without further ado, we are good to go. So let's get started. On first things first, who is ACCA? Those of you that joined yesterday, you will hopefully remember who ACCA are. But for those of you that are new, so ACCA is the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA for short. We are the global professional body for those working in accounting and finance. We have students and members in over 180 countries. So we're a truly global organization. We offer the qualifications for accounting and finance professionals. So they receive globally recognized qualification, kind of a gold stamp to say they have the technical knowledge, but also the soft skills to be able to be working in the world of accounting and finance. So for those young people on the call, you might be in year 10, 11, 12, or 13. And you might be doing A levels, GCSE, you might be doing your T level, and you'll probably know Edexcel or AQA as your exam board. So in a qualification sense, ACCA, or the professional body, is a bit like that. But once you are qualified with ACCA, you become a member and part of the ACCA community. And as I said, we are global. And once you complete the qualification with ACCA, it is equivalent to a master's level, level 7. Now, I said we are truly global. These are just some numbers. And as I said in my introduction, we are in over 180 countries. We have over 250,000 people that have completed that qualification, and we have 500,000 future members. So they are students that are currently studying. So we've got some on the call tonight who are currently going through their qualification, and we'll be able to share some insights into that. Now, you might be wondering, again, if you joined yesterday, you will know this by now, but pathways into ACCA and accountancy. What you can see from this slide is that there is no wrong pathway into ACCA, the profession, and to becoming a chartered certified accountant. So regardless of your starting point, you can be successful and become qualified. Now, whether that's through an apprenticeship, going to university to study something like accounting and finance, or even if you go to university and decide to study something totally irrelevant to accounting and finance, it might be history, it might be languages, it might be sports science, you can still enter into ACCA and accountancy after that. Or even if you decide to come to ACCA and accountancy later in life, there is that pathway for you. Now, each of the pathways that you can see here will enable you to become a chartered certified accountant and a member of ACCA. Now, you might notice in the top two pathways, there that there are pathways outside of the university route that can also lead you to a degree. Now, that is the BSc in professional accountancy with the University of London. Now, depending on your pathway with ACCA, you are able to complete an accountancy degree program while studying for the ACCA qualification. Now, this provides you with an additional qualification from a prestigious university if that is something that is of interest to you over and above the ACCA qualification, which is really, really strong as it is on its own. And it could be nice for people that have done an apprenticeship. They might want to do this. But again, it's an additional add-on. It's not a requirement. It's just something that if you are interested in. There is a QR code you can scan, or you can go online and find out more information about that. So without further ado, I think I've spoken for a good 5 minutes. And as I said, today's session is not all about me. It's about the people on the panel. So we are going to get to the panel session. And I'm really pleased that we have our panelists who have joined us this evening. So following a brief introduction to each person, we will go into some questions. And then if you use the Q&A function, we will take questions from the audience. So without further ado, I will start briefly with Amal. So if you could unmute yourself and kind of introduce yourself, where you work, and kind of what your pathway has been.
Hi guys, my name's Amal and I work at Cooper Parry. I mainly focus on something called management accounts, VAT returns and bookkeeping, and I work in practice rather than industry. My pathway was I went to university, so once I started the ACCA qualification, I had several exemptions. So I went straight into doing the last 7 exams through my workplace, through like the apprenticeship. So yeah, that's pretty much it about myself.
Perfect, thank you. We'll get to dive into a few more details about everyone's journey. So next up on on the screen is Tom.
Yeah. Hi everybody. So my name's Tom. I work as a client accountant at a firm called James Scott. So it's a medium-sized firm. I've actually recently qualified for ACCA, so I'm a chartered accountant. So I've gone through that whole apprenticeship process and come out the other end. So a bit different from what some of the other people have done. I've gone the full apprenticeship route rather than any university or anything like that. I've started from AAT, which is a different accountancy qualification, and followed that all the way through now to the end of ACCA.
Yes, and it's very common for people that go through the apprenticeship. They might start with AAT, which is another accountancy qualification, and they move on to ACCA. So thank you very much, Tom. Now over to you, Bryony.
Hello, so I'm Bryony. I work in the public sector, so I work for a multi-academy trust of 29 primary schools, and I'm in the central team for that. And I'm doing a full apprenticeship, so I've moved from completing level 3 AAT to doing all of the ACCA exams, so I've got no exemptions.
Thank you very much. And a really interesting thing before we move on to Charlene is that working in accounting and finance, you can be across every sector, every industry, all over the country, because all of you are kind of pretty much geographically spread out. So it is a common misconception that often you only have to be like in London or the big cities, and that's not the case. So last but not least, Charlene.
Hi everybody, my name's Charlene. I'm actually a civil servant in the Ministry of Defence. I work at an RAF station, and similar to Bryony and Tom, I started with AAT level 3 and I've now moved on to level 4 ACCA and hopefully then on to the level 7. My job entails more financial accountancy, but there are elements of management accounting similar to Amal. So I get the broad spectrum of the whole of the accounting qualification, and I'm enjoying it. So
yeah, perfect. So the first question, I mean, I'll go to those of you that started off from the apprenticeship pretty much from the start. So why did you choose an apprenticeship and how did you get into it? So maybe Tom, because you've gone through the whole sort of apprenticeship journey.
Yeah. So I finished college. I did economics at A levels, a bit of a financy, mathsy side of that as a qualification. And I always wanted to go into accountancy, but I didn't think that the university route would have been right for me. I think from what I've been told about people who were in that role and who had worked in the jobs, say like a lot of it is practical experience that you need, where you can learn from the books, but until you get into the job, you need to learn what you've got to do. So I thought it's probably better to at the same time do the exams, do the learning, but start building that work experience for it and that knowledge, practical knowledge. So it was from finishing college, I pretty much straight away was asking around, sending letters out, sending emails out, applying for accounting apprenticeship jobs in all local firms for me. I think I found it's better. Also, you earn your wage at the same time. You haven't got the student debt, which are all the benefits of the apprenticeship. But I think what I've learned in the 7 or so years working rather than studying and then working is that life experience and that experience dealing with clients firsthand. I think it's quite invaluable.
Yeah, and I mean with the apprenticeship, as you said, you're working and learning and studying at the same time. So there's a bit of a balance to be had there, and we will get to that. How about yourself, Bryony?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into this apprenticeship. It was never a plan. I wasn't ever very good at maths. It wasn't my strong point. I much preferred English. So actually, I moved to Devon. So I'm in the sticks in Devon, just in a completely rural place. And I actually was covering someone who'd gone on a sabbatical. So I was covering in the finance team, and I just really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the challenge because it's something I'd never done before. So, and a bit like Tom, I wanted to gain that hands-on experience. I did go to university for a year to do event management, but realised that actually I much preferred the hands-on learning at work as well. So, yeah, I kind of gained it from my employer, this apprenticeship, and they could see I was enjoying the different aspects of finance. So yeah, it was. Yeah,
And that's a
different.
really good thing for students as well, that you chose the university route to study something different. It didn't work out for you, and now you're on kind of an accountancy and finance pathway with ACCA. So it goes to show like there is kind of no wrong pathway really, and if something is not serving you or is not suiting you, you can always change, and that's not just a university level, it's like throughout life. So how about for yourself, Charlene, for the apprenticeship?
So I actually was in the Navy and was in the Navy for 12.5 years, and initially started a maths degree. So I have a BSc in maths and was initially going to be a teacher, and joined as a contractor on the same station that I had my final post in, and sort of like Bryony fell into finance. I've been running from finance my whole life, and then sort of joined a team that I became really integral to, doing first of all debt management, and then initially doing client accounts on change of contract, and then moved into my current job. And the management team who oversee us, the corporate governance team, saw that I had that potential and recommended me for the apprenticeship program. I had my own concerns because I'm a mature student and thought that actually that didn't apply to me. And I found out that actually they were changing the whole structure of apprenticeships, and that it wasn't going to discriminate against age or anybody at all. And the support was there for you to learn and develop yourself in order to retain key work set skills. And I jumped straight on it, and it was delayed slightly, and it's been really challenging, but it's been rewarding for the same reasons that Brian and Tom have been describing, because I've been able to use those practical skills that I've been developing over the last few years without the qualification experience, and apply those within my job, and then even go further. And the support is there. So it's been really eye-opening experience to know that actually it doesn't matter your age or even your background or whatever struggles you might think, that you can still get into learning even at a later stage.
Yeah, and there's lots of people that decide to change their careers, like, several times. And for you, Amal, so you went down the university route, which is great, and then you've gone on to kind of the apprenticeship program as well. Would you like to just talk a little bit about that and just expand on the exemptions for those that might not know, and I can fill in?
Yeah, sure. So I finished my sixth form in 2000, was it? Yeah, 2018, and I practically had like a post sixth form crisis because I genuinely did not know what I wanted to do once I finished sixth form. So I did internships online because it was during like the start of like ish of COVID. So yeah, that was 2019. And yeah, I went into uni, did an accounting and finance degree. So I kind of learned a lot of the theoretical side of the accounting world. So once I did finish my accounting and finance degree, I got in a graduate apprenticeship. So with that, I had certain exemptions because during university I took up accredited modules that were accredited by ACCA themselves. So once I did start my graduate scheme, I was able to not sit those exams and just move straight to the advanced ones.
Yeah,
So
no,
it was just
great.
a quicker route.
Yeah, it can be a quicker route because if you study accounting and finance or a related degree, you can skip or
Yeah,
it'd be exempt from some of the exams. One of the
yeah,
things to bear in mind for everyone, you need to have 36 months of work experience anyway. So the shortest amount of time you could realistically do it is in kind of 3 years. But everyone kind of starts differently. So because you touched upon the exams and kind of the studying and working, we will go to that question because that's something that comes up a lot and something some people sometimes overlook on all apprenticeships is like you're working and you're studying. So I'll start with you again, Amal, because today you actually just finished your last exam, hopefully. And how do you
yes.
manage your kind of work responsibilities and studying at the same time?
I'm not gonna lie, it's not an easy task to do because working full time from like 9 to 5, especially when there's some times where it's like busy season, you're not guaranteed to finish at 5 o'clock. So it's kind of hard to like struggle revising and working full time. I think the best way of doing it is sticking to like a strict timetable and just scheduling properly. So I do like an hour of revision after work most days, and then I try and do a couple hours on the weekend, but when it's closer to the exam season, I tend to do like 4 or 5 hours on the weekend just to make sure like I know my content properly because these ACCA exams, they're not the easiest of exams, to be honest, and the content is a lot. So you can't
Yeah.
just rely on just doing like theory knowledge. You also have to do like exam practice constantly to pick up those small marks because it's a difference between a pass or a fail, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they are, ACCA qualification is prestigious and kind of it's so highly regarded
Yeah,
because it isn't easy to pass and kind of the rewards come with being qualified. So I'll go over to you,
definitely.
Tom, because you've actually completed the apprenticeship cycle, you're qualified. So when you were in the depths of working and studying, how did you manage that?
Yeah, I think it's one of them ones. I think as soon as I finish now, I completely forget. It's
Yeah.
nice to have some free time back. No, I think the same as what Amala says. I think you need to not be afraid to put that extra bit of work in, and you need to know that you're gonna have less free time for these couple of years where you've got to work your job, you've got to complete your tasks at work, you can't let it slack and slip. But these aren't easy exams, and you really can't take them for granted. So many people can rock up to the exam on the day and they're caught out and they sit at the computer and they stare at it for an hour and they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
You've really got to be on the ball with your studying. Luckily for me, a lot of my lectures were in person, but they also recorded them and then sent them
Mhm.
out at the end. But if I was studying, I can have two screens on and I'll have question practice and I can have the lectures on at the same time, even just to listen to as a bit of white noise.
Yeah.
But I think it's just you really need to put the hours in,
Yeah.
definitely. I
Yeah.
found question practice was a massive one. It was at least one full-size question a night start, especially for the later papers where you only have 4 or 5 questions on the entire paper. So each question is a good hour or so
Mhm.
worth of work. And I'll do one a night at least just to get into that rhythm and get into that repetition of the style and the format for the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah, and it's all about, employers are always looking for people going into apprenticeship. It's about the resilience because, there will be times where it's really tough. to manage everything. And, you know, we're all human and we all have lives outside of work and study. So for you, Bryony, is there anything else you do to kind of manage those two, the studying and the working at the same time?
Yeah, similar to Tom and Amal, I get obviously one study day a week, which you would do if you did an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So that really helps to have a full day of just focus on that, forget about work. And I can do that from home, which is really good. My employer's good with that. So my work, although my work, they do obviously integrate, because what I'm doing in my lessons is hopefully what I can put into my employment as well. But I try and keep them completely separate in terms of, like, I won't be looking at work emails in them days. Like, and you've got to have a bit of self-motivation, and a lot of what I'm doing, I'm learning by myself. I'm not joining any live lessons or going in person, so I'm just literally watching pre-recorded videos. So that's hard in terms of I can't ask questions during the time. I can obviously put things on the forum, and there is the option of doing live online lessons, which is good. But I don't have anywhere near me that does actual face-to-face lessons, but it obviously doesn't stop you. There is so much online, and there is so many, depending on who you do the apprenticeship through, there's so many different resources they give you, and you have obviously a tutor which you can go to at any time. So I just think definitely questions are the key thing. I make posters and start using them with the questions to start with, and then when I get more confident, I just completely have to do it blind and hope for the best. So yeah, questions are definitely the way forward.
Yeah, and as you said as well, being really proactive and, you know, going for it.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Charlene? Is there anything else that maybe you do differently, or something that, you know, in terms of your work and studying?
Well, I think my colleagues here have sort of covered most of the bases, but one of the key things I'd encourage people is that you must communicate if you're struggling, because a lot of people forget, they think that they're on their own, and they get bogged down with deadlines and being concerned that they're not covering everything they need to do. If you are struggling, you need to tell someone and make sure that you have the correct support to make sure that you're achieving those goals. And even if, you know, you do your exam and you don't feel confident, like Amal was saying prior to our starting the call, if you feel like you're not overly confident about it, don't worry about it, because you can go and redo it. Obviously, it's always best to try and pass it first time, but don't get down on yourself. Just reach out to a coach or whoever it is that you get your support from, or ACCA. There's so many tools that are there to support you through the exam process, and you should really use them.
Yeah, and the apprenticeship in its nature is to be supported through that process. And also, when people think about, you know, oh, there's so many exams and you're not expected to do them all at once, you know, there's a structured approach, there's lots of things available. So enough about the studying and the balancing. We know that, you know, can be a challenge, but that is with apprenticeships and going on like a graduate apprenticeship, like you're going to have to, that is the nature of how things work. But often when we talk to young people, I know there'll be lots of questions, and they like to know kind of what's a typical day look like, or are there any specific tasks or responsibilities? So we'll go, I mean, it's a really loaded question, so if we can summarize it as much as you can. So I'll go to you, Amal, first. Your typical day.
It really depends, to be fair, because it depends if I'm working from home that day or if I'm going into the office. The company I work at is very, very flexible. So we have something called like work from anywhere, anytime, forever. So we don't have to necessarily come into the office every single day. So I tend to go in at least once a week. But it's mainly just checking emails in the morning, seeing if I'm quite a big to-do list fan, so I tend to do my to-do list the day before and just tick off anything that I need to do. If there's deadlines, for instance, there's a few back deadlines like around the corner, chasing clients, sending us all the information, year-end accounts needs to be signed off, monthly management accounts. So yeah, there's quite a few tasks, but I think the most important thing is just staying on top of emails. And also, I think one thing about clients is they really value communication. So even if you're not able to go back to them on something, if you just send a little courtesy email saying that I'm looking into this, they do appreciate that a lot. So yeah, it's just trying to find the perfect balance. and
Yeah.
what works for you.
Yeah. And how about for yourself, Tom? What does your kind of typical day look like?
Yeah, I think I'll go straight into what I'm also there about the communication part is key. So in my client role, in my job role as a client accountant, I'm very, very client facing. So I'll say again, we're very flexible where we can work. So again, any place, any time, as long as the work's being done. So I split mine as well. Sometimes I can be in our office, and sometimes I can work from home as well. But the day's pretty much the same, no matter where I am. But yeah, like it is a lot of mine. It'd be a lot of emailing clients, ringing clients, chasing up for info for the accounting software, to finish reconciling their books up and getting the information that we need. So my day does consist a lot of being on the phone or typing an email up. But it's usually it's about getting into the rhythm of it. So like you say, I check emails. We have our like task list of what needs doing, what jobs need doing, and the deadlines, and it's kind of just getting into that same rhythm. So it might be VAT returns. I try and to do them all at the same time, and then I might have accounts that are due. Or my clients where the company year end has recently ended to try and get an early start on the accounts and start getting queries out faster. So mine's a lot trying to structure every week and try and get a consistent rhythm going.
Yeah. And how about for yourself, Brian? Because you said you're part of a trust that has like 20 primary schools. So that's an interesting thing that maybe people wouldn't have thought about. So is there anything in your day to day?
Yeah, so obviously apart from the usual, I'm supporting the trust accountant and doing all the finance roles that I'm doing, we have 29 primary schools, so I actually work at one of the primary schools. We're on site, so in my day-to-day life, I come into contact with lots of primary school children, lots of school administrators, lots of teachers, head teachers, the CEO. Like there's lots of different people I have to communicate with, and most of them won't understand finance. So when I'm trying to tell them you need to do this, you need to do that in terms of finance, they're going, I don't understand what you mean. So my role obviously isn't just supporting the central team with the main management accounts and like accruals and prepayments and things. My role is also safeguarding with the children, because we get children coming in our office sometimes. And just I wouldn't be in my role if it wasn't for education and for the children. So for me, like we look at the wider picture in the trust and think, well, we're here to support the children and get the best education for the children. And obviously that means getting the best finances we can and getting income in from the councils. And we work very closely with our councils. So our schools are across Devon, Dorset and Plymouth. So we speak to lots of different councils, and obviously we get government funding. So that's slightly different to a private company who actually has to create their own income. That's not what we're there for. We're not there to make a profit. So it's a different side of accountancy, which actually I really enjoy because it's got lots of different aspects to it.
Yeah, so it's like what you're working within the public sector, and also like, you can think of, so many other organizations. You've got like the NHS, for example, is huge. And something that I would like to touch upon that you said, and I know it's a very, very hot topic. And when you said you speak to people that don't really understand the finances and you're kind of having to explain to them and kind of that advisory role. And that's something, one of the myths around AI coming in to take people's jobs. So, AI is here and is going to be evolving. It's going to be there to support the accountant and the finance professional of the future. And there's always going to be that need for the professional to be able to say, okay, this is what the AI or whatever's been shown to me, and being able to understand, is that correct? Are there any errors or, discrepancies, and how you communicate that to your clients, whoever they might be. So I'm really glad you touched upon the fact that you have to talk to people where they don't understand finances. And for you, Charlene, what does your typical kind of day look like? Because you said you work on an army base as well, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so RAF base here in the southeast of England. And my role is quite diverse because I have two sides to my role. I act as what would be bank cashier for 2 days of my week, and then the other 2 days I focus on more advisory like Bryony, with policy and ensuring that funding is being sorted for different areas of the station. So for 2 days, I just focus on the financial side, and then for 2 days, I do I dabble in management, accounting, and advisory work. It's quite interesting because, especially on the advisory side, the cashier side is just maths. It's everyday maths, and managing funding, as in actual cash. But the management side is similar to Bryony, where you have to discuss and explain what finance is to people. And you'd think that, with it being the MOD, it's quite straightforward. It really isn't. They try to get around, because of the last minute nature of a lot of the tasks that we have to support. They try to go around the rules in order to get to the end product, and you have to sort of show them that actually you can attain getting to the end product by following the guidelines step by step. And that's part of my job, to ensure that actually it doesn't matter what's going on and the tempo of the exercise or whatever project they're doing, that we're meeting the requirements step by step and not missing anything out, so that we're compliant. That's a big part of my job.
Yeah. Great. So there's lots of diverse sort of day-to-day, some usual tasks. Some people have quite a lot of diversity in what they do. I want to pick up on one of Tom's points, which is really interesting, and I noted it down, is around communication being key, which leads to kind of the next question around the skills required, or the most important skills in your role. And you've all identified in some way, shape or form that communication is a really, really important skill. So, technical ability and understanding is really, really good. But, as we're going into the world of work, is those soft skills. So communication is a really, really key skill, which we've all identified. And let's see what other skills you think you need to be successful in your role. So, Amal, I'll start with you, if you can pick maybe one or two in addition to communication.
I would definitely say time management and just like a work-life balance, because as an apprenticeship, as I stated earlier, you have your exams to also do at the same time. So you kind of have to have that work-life balance from like Monday to Friday, and even like Saturday and Sunday. So definitely just putting in key tasks, like what you want to do today, what you want to do tomorrow, and then squeezing in certain times to like revise, and then just doing that day in, day out, basically. So
Yeah.
definitely time management.
Time management. Okay, how about for yourself, Tom?
I think a big one, and it's probably a softer skill, is confidence. I think I found, especially since studying ACCA, where those expectations at work get a little bit higher as you're getting a bit more experience, as you're getting a bit more knowledge and a bit closer to that qualification. But I found, especially in manager, where it is a lot of face-to-face and phone calls with clients, and I'm working with their businesses and their money, and it's their baby. And I found that when they're asking you for advice or helping making a decision, or just querying something with their accounts or with a tax return, having the confidence in your knowledge and in yourself and what you've done is right, to kind of give them that reassurance as well that you're the person for the job, to look after their businesses. And it's one I don't think I was the most confident person probably 5 years ago. But because the job, you have to deal with the clients, you have to pick the phone up, you have to ring them. And, sometimes at first it might be really daunting and terrifying, but once you get used to that and that skill has grown, it really helps with that job satisfaction when, the client is actively thanking you, where you're helping them make the right decision, and you start to see the wider impacts of what your work is.
100%, and kind of stepping out of the comfort zone, which is something that students can do at school or college, or if someone's joining from university or wherever. It's like that, taking those steps to step out of your comfort zone to build that competence is really, really important. You can do that wherever you are, whatever stage of life. So for you, Bryony, is there any other skills that for you to be really successful in your role?
I think I've got a couple. So the first one is like attention to detail. Like in finance, accuracy is everything. You don't want to be putting in numbers wrong and just making mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes as long as you know why you made them, how you made them, and how to resolve them. And I think that's the key thing, talking to people to make sure you understand what you did wrong, and what not to do in the future, basically. But as well, as I said earlier, like adaptability. In my role, I speak to so many different types of people in finance, people not in finance, and every one of our schools has a different need, and has a just different like tactics of how they want to spend their money and what they want to do for their children. So I think just adaptability, being flexible is really important, because one minute you'll be doing something on finance and the next minute you might be dragged to go and, I don't know, open the gate for someone, or it's just you'll be dragged to a lot of different things. So flexibility is key.
Yeah, thank you. And how about for you, Charlene? Oh, I think you're on mute. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I am, sorry.
Yeah, they're right.
So a big part of my job is flexibility as well. Just because of the MOD and the nature of the business, and like I said earlier, the high tempo, the amount of changes that you can go through in a day or a week to meet operational capability, you need to be flexible to be able to meet those demands. But also we need to have integrity in our arena. It's a big part of making sure that actually all of the most relevant information is getting to the most important people, being honest about what the difficulties that we might be facing, and how we can or cannot deliver something, and whether or not we can meet those criteria, and feeding that information to the relevant stakeholders. It's a massive part of our business as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So there's the whole wide range of skills that have been identified. And I think one of the overriding messages, like, maths is really important, but it's also the soft skills are so important to become a successful kind of professional now and into the future. We're probably going to have time for one or two more questions before we go to the Q&A. So for those of you listening, do go into the Q&A and ask us some questions, because we will take some to the panel. So I think probably one of the final ones I will ask is kind of, what advice would you give someone who's considering an apprenticeship and is kind of unsure? So we'll start backwards. So we'll start with Charlene. What piece of advice would you give to a young person or a parent or someone that's considering changing a career, or an educator who's going to be advising their students? Is there any advice you would give?
I would say don't be afraid. A lot of people, there are a lot of myths around apprenticeships. And you'd be surprised how much, like I said earlier, support you get, and the fact of the amount of different avenues that you can enter by getting through an apprenticeship. And you don't, it's not like rigid either. You get there's a lot of flexibility in it, and so long as you stay open to the process, then it's leads to that qualification that you're working towards.
Yeah, great. How about for yourself, Bryony? Any pieces
So I think I wish someone had told me how much confidence you gain from working like in a professional environment. And obviously quite early on I went into a professional environment by doing an apprenticeship. And at first I think I felt really out of my depth, but like my colleagues are so supportive, and especially doing an apprenticeship, like they want you to do well, they want you to succeed and learn all these skills. So like I quickly realized that I was contributing meaningfully to the team and really making a difference. So, and I also wish I'd known how transferable the skills are, like finance skills. It obviously, like we've said, it isn't just maths, because if it was, I don't think I'd be able to do it, but it's all the extra things that you learn along the way, which really opens doors to like any sector. Like you could move around and go into anything really. So
yeah. No, that's great. And I really like that point, and I'm going to use it. So thank you. And I'll quote you when I use it. It's about, those that are struggling with confidence. And actually, you might be listening and think, I don't think I would have the confidence to work in any organization on, advise clients or speak to people. But actually, when you start the apprenticeship, you're going to go through that process and you will gain the confidence. And no one is expecting to go in and be like that sort of ready-made professional, because everyone is always developing. So that's a really great sort of gem for those listening. So for you, Tom, is there any advice, because you've obviously finished the cycle, as we've said, so any advice that those are considering about an apprenticeship? Or
I think I'd be to give it a try. I think that between this and the university, obviously there's a lot of that risk of university. You can get onto the wrong course. And like Bryony said, she went in did a course, realised it wasn't for her.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the apprenticeship, it's, you've not got that risk that you can be saddled with the debt if you take student finance, something like that. If you've got an interest in accountancy, who is better to learn from than accountants? Dip your toes in, go on the apprenticeship, get that real world experience and start learning at the same time. And if you don't like it and it doesn't work out, then you walk away and you're no worse off.
Yeah.
But you still get some of those soft skills at the same time, what it's like to work in that professional environment. I think the right advice from me will be just to give it a try.
Yeah. And obviously, Amal, to you, like you went down the university route, which was your pathway, and you still, all pathways lead to the same end goal. But is there any advice you would give the students kind of listening if they're unsure, maybe university or apprenticeship, or like, I have no idea, which is also good because I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm not going to reveal my age. So, that's also okay. Is there any advice you would give?
No, definitely. I think it really depends on the person, because I think some people go into university to, you know, find themselves, maybe learn more skill sets, or I don't know, there's so much things you can learn from university. For me personally, if I could rewind the clocks back, I think I would have skipped the university part and went straight into an apprenticeship. It just, for some, like, you won't be in that debt. You start your career a lot earlier as well. And I think because there's so much support when it comes to an apprenticeship, you're not expected to know it all. And also, you're going to be exposed to so much different avenues when it comes to the like accountancy. You're not just going to be stuck to maybe doing, it depends on where you work at, but like for me, for instance, when I first started, I wasn't just stuck on doing management accounts. I was exposed to pretty much everything because I was an apprentice. So I kind of use that to my advantage. And I think colleagues see that you're an apprentice, so you're expected to make mistakes, you're expected to like learn from anything and everything. So I think definitely if I could restart, I would just start with an apprenticeship just to save that burdensome debt, to be fair.
Yeah, so I mean, really good advice from everyone. And also, I think as Tom alluded to, like you could kind of start an apprenticeship, and if you don't like it, you could
Exactly.
then be like, oh, maybe I want to go to university, or maybe I want to try something else. So, there's no kind of wrong way. And, the benefits of everyone joining these sort of calls is to kind of get a feel for, things you might like or might not like. So before we move on to the Q&A part, so we're going to take some of your questions. So as I said, this webinar is a part of a series of 4 webinars. So we had one last night. You're all joined in this tonight. We still have 2 more sessions taking place. So one's tomorrow. You should be able to click on these links. But if not, through Success at School, you would have received the emails, or you can find the next 2 sessions. So we've got one tomorrow, which is called Leaders of Tomorrow. And this is with more senior, so quite senior ACCA members that have gone through the route. They have many years of experience in accounting and finance, some a business owner, someone working in football, which is really, really interesting. So if you can join us, same time, same place, different panel. And then Tuesday next week, we've got an application masterclass with the government finance function, and they're going to talk through the process of how it is to apply, what to do, what not to do, where does AI fit into all of that. So if you would like to join us, please join us, and it will be great to have you there. Now, in terms of what you can do from this moment onwards, we do have ACCA careers. You might be a bit young, or you might not be ready to kind of jump into a career right now, but ACCA careers, as you can see on here, it advertises over 750,000 vacancies every year, and these are global, but also it can be local, so wherever you are. Hopefully they would have some, right in the countryside, you might find something relatively near you, but you might think, it's a bit early for me. But what's really good with ACCA careers is for your discovery stage, so you can kind of have a look at, the types of roles. There's careers advice resources on there. There's also a role insights tool, so you can kind of see all the kind of roles that are available, and knowledge is power. So it's kind of setting you up with that knowledge and exploring what's available. And then something else which looks really, really great on your CV, but also as a discovery, is our ACCA X, which is free online e-learning courses. It's not part of the ACCA qualifications, just free e-learning covering levels 2 and 3. So that's equivalent to GCSE and A level. As I said again, ACCA X, they're free. And if you're doing a T level or doing an A level maybe, or BTEC and something like business or economics, it might be supporting some of the learning you're doing in the classroom. It can be done in your own time, so you can sign up today, not complete it. You might sign up in the holidays and do complete it. But not only is it free, it looks really, really great on your CV. So if you are want things to bulk up your CV and to look like you're really proactive and you're not just applying for a role because you're looking for a role and you actually really want to get into accounting and finance, all employers that are recruiting in this area, they will know who ACCA are. Obviously, it's not the ACCA qualification, it's ACCA X. And that will be some way that you could use to kind of stand out from your competitors or everyone else who is applying. So ACCA X. And then finally, you can connect with us on our social media, which is on your screen now. So we are coming to the Q&A. So we've got about 15 minutes to go through some questions and answers with the panel. And we really, really value your feedback to improve and understand what works. So if you could scan this QR code, it will take you to a feedback form that you'll be able to do. And if not, hopefully we can get that link to you after this session. So we're now going to have some Q&A with our panelists. And I'm leaving the QR code there so you can scan it as we go through. So I am going to have a look at some questions. There was loads of questions in the chat. So I'm going to take the first one, which is an interesting one, which I can actually answer. So does taking economics at A level make a crucial impact? So in terms of if you're applying for an apprenticeship, all companies vary in terms of their requirements for going into the apprenticeship. Typically, if that from the experience that I have had with recruiters is if someone's applying for an apprenticeship, they're often looking for something like maths, business, maybe economics at A level. But there are some other companies that don't have that requirement. So it's not crucial, but if you are doing it, that could be good. So I can see in the Q&A the links have been put in there. So let me get some questions. Okay, what apps or websites did you use for your? Okay, so in terms of, the question is, what apps or websites did you use to get apprenticeships for those of you that did? So I've given you some of stuff that ACCA can offer. So I might throw it out to the panel and see kind of what apps or websites you've used, and just feel free to unmute yourself and let us know how you did that.
I never actually obviously used an app because I was already working with my employer and they offered me the apprenticeship. So I didn't see that side of it, but I know a few people that do, and there's a lot on the government website if you wanted to go into the public sector, which I mainly know about. I'm not so sure on the private side, but the government website is really useful. They have an apprenticeship website which you can go to, and you can do it by location, or you can just see who's looking, because it might be a worldwide or national company. So definitely have a look on there.
So the government website should have all kind of the apprenticeships that are live. Is anyone else use something different or have any? I think Amal, you've
I think one website that was really useful for me was Bright Network. So because I was like in university during the COVID time, I couldn't really get like placements. So they did a lot of like online internships that are 3 days. I don't know if they still do it, but they do a lot of like maybe little courses. They also have like partnerships with so many different companies, and also ACCA is on there because I just checked there earlier. So ACCA is on Bright Network, so it tells you all about ACCA. It tells you about like other apprenticeships that you can work at like different companies. So I definitely say look into Bright Network because that was very, very useful.
Anyone else?
I think unfortunately mine was done through work. I got the job and then started the apprenticeship through work, so they kind of did all that side for me.
And that's also another thing, like you can apply for an entry level role that's not necessarily an apprenticeship, and then you could be put onto an apprenticeship, which that could also be overlooked. Charlene, did you have anything to add?
I was just about to say about the entry level thing, because I know that within the MOD, and you mentioned the government finance function are going to be on one of the later webinars. They do recruitment drives specifically linked to apprenticeships for finance roles, and you can apply for those through the civil service website, the government website. So there's that as well, and they're big on ACCA and CIMA.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So another question we've got on here, which I can kind of answer: do you get paid during internships? And the big question, how much? So the answer to being paid is yes, you do get paid. So the whole kind of thing about apprenticeship is you're working, learning and studying at the same time. In terms of how much, it will depend on the employer. You can have a look at different employers. They'll pay different sort of salaries. But the main thing with apprenticeship is once you're qualified and you get that qualification, especially working in accounting and finance, it can be quite lucrative. So when applying for an apprenticeship, is graduate apprenticeship better than an advanced apprenticeship? So in terms of, this is kind of alluding to different pathways. So, you know, whether you go down the apprenticeship route, if you did a degree apprenticeship, or if you went to uni and then went on to a graduate program apprenticeship, kind of all routes can lead you to the same outcome. So it really is what works best for you. And I think the panel have kind of said their different routes, and that's kind of what worked for them. And I guess it's it would work for you. Let's see. Let me just get some other questions on here. Okay. This is an interesting one around how did you find the application process? So for those of you that applied, you know, I know Bryony and Tom, you said you got it for your job already, but those of you that applied, how did you find the application process? So maybe Amal, how did you find the application process?
To be fair, before starting my company, I applied to like, I'd say 3 different companies, and each company had like a different application process. But they're quite similar. So I'd say most of them have like a telephone interview, and then it will be like more like a face-to-face interview. And then a lot of them have assessment centers. So I know that there are a few companies that do mock assessment centers that you could look into somewhere on the internet. I'm sure they'll do like mock assessment centers, but it's definitely something to look into, do a bit of research on, because I know that a lot of accountancy practices do mock assessment centers when it comes to like audit or tax. But for me, it was mainly telephone interview, and then I had a face-to-face interview, and then I had to do like a presentation on a company that I could improve on, and then I had another interview, and then I got the job. So yeah, there are a few stages to get in the job, but it really depends on what sector you work into. Some industry companies, there's only like a phone call, maybe a little short interview, and then that's pretty much it. So it really depends on the company.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to add, Charlene?
So I am similar to Bryony and Tom in that I applied while in my job. However, like I said earlier about the entry level, what happens is that actually you apply for the job as an apprentice, and they will interview you as a job interview. So you'll go through the whole screening process for the civil service, and then if you are suitable for that role, they will then offer you the role as an apprentice. Normally those roles are fast track roles, so you'll go into what is classed as junior management straight off, and then go through your process as an apprenticeship.
Yeah, thank you. So another question which I have answered, but the second part is really, really interesting, is if I don't do maths at A level, but I do economics, would this be a problem to get into accounting, specifically an apprenticeship? The answer is no, but also it also depends on kind of the company, but most employers that I've worked with, if you have like a, you know, maths, economics, business related A level, that's fine. But then this person has said, are there any extracurricular activities or work experience you would recommend to close that gap? So in terms of extracurricular activities, there's so much that you can be doing either in school, college, or wherever you are. So you could have a hobby. So you could be part of a football team, you could be part of a netball team, you could be part of a music, drama, you could be doing Duke of Edinburgh. There's so many things that are helping you build those soft skills that we talked about around communication, kind of your adaptability, being flexible. Another one is around building kind of your team working skills. Also in schools and colleges, you could be getting involved in organising events, helping with like open evenings or mentoring younger students. Some sixth formers do that. And all of these things that you could be doing in school are going to be really bolstering and helping your soft skills. In terms of work experience, we can't shy away from the fact that not everyone is going to get work experience. And that's okay, because, employers are not always looking for you to have, you're applying for an accounting apprenticeship, you need to have accounting work experience. That's not the kind of experience for everyone, and that's okay. But you can look at different things that you can do in your current situation that you can actually bring out those soft skills. And employers are really hiring for you and like the authentic self that you're bringing to the company. So if you don't have that work experience, you might have a part-time job, for example, working in hospitality, or I don't know, working in a shop. These are all skills that you're going to be customer facing. Like in accounting, you could be client facing, and you're bringing in all these skills. So I wouldn't get too hung up on having direct work experience. If you can get it, that's great. But if you can't, I've given you some things that you can kind of do to build on that. Does the panel have any thoughts around what I've said or anything to add?
Could I jump in on that, Josh?
Yeah,
So
100%.
I actually did do economics at A-level.
There you go.
I started doing maths and then dropped out of maths and took up economics instead. So I found it was quite useful actually having the knowledge you get from that about things like interest rates and dipping into that economic environment part when it is what we operate. We operate in the economy, don't we? And our job is directly impacted by the economy, and our clients are. I also did do work experience at the firm that I currently work at. It was after year 10, maybe the summer of year 10 or year 11, where I did a week's work experience. And then after finishing, it might have been, and then a week in year 10 and then 2 weeks in year 11 work experience at the place. Finishing college, applied for a job at the same place. So I think it's one like you say, maybe not everyone's lucky enough that they can get work experience, but I found it was through the persistence of bothering them and chasing it up that they did eventually give me a placement.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of, then you've done that, you think, right, yeah, that is actually what I want to do, and you've already got your foot in the door with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, another great thing that you could do with that, because if you really want work experience, and we've talked about being proactive, is on ACCA Careers or LinkedIn, where you can look at what firms that are in accounting and finance that might be recruiting generally. So you can see what's in your area, and then you can look on their website. Do they have an early careers team? You can drop them an email and say, look, I'm looking for work experience. Is there something available? Because a lot of companies do offer work experience, and if you're not being proactive to find out about them, might not hear about them. So yeah, so that's something that you could try. Is there any final things? I know two of you have unmuted yourself. Would you like to add before we bring things to a close?
I was just going to say that I think obviously actual finance like experience is great, but also if you can't get that, volunteering or doing charity work, raising money for charities, like it really opens you up to the world, and it really makes you get to talk to people, communicate, get them soft skills like we say, and every business, no matter what, charities, private, public, whoever you can go to, everybody has a finance function. So even if you're there and you're not particularly doing finance, you can ask them questions and you can find out how they do things and where do you get your funding, and are you at a profit, are you at a loss? Like you don't have to be doing a particular finance role or experience to get some knowledge from that. So definitely ask questions and use the people around you and see what they do.
Thank you. And any final words from you, Charlene?
No, I agree with everything everybody has said. I think life experience is a big part of that journey, and making sure that you have those soft skills. And I think being a mature student, I've learned a lot more and been more successful on my journey, having had that time behind me. That's been able to help me to be successful so far. So
yeah. Thank you. So we're nearly at the end. I can't believe the hour has gone so quickly. And, it's been great to see so many of you join in this evening session. So I just want to say thank you for all of you for joining. Do make sure to join us for the remainder sessions coming up. We still have 2, and we will dive into the application and assessment centres if you are interested. Obviously, a massive thank you to our panel, so Amal, Tom, Bryony and Charlene, who took time out of their evening to support us on a Wednesday evening, and obviously Success at School for hosting. We will take some of these questions and hopefully try and come out with the answers in the form with Success at School, because there was lots of questions, which means there's really good engagement, and lots of you are interested. So from me, good night, and thank you all so much. And we're right on 7:30. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.